Today we're going to talk about the top 6 things I learned when I opened a new bike shop in 2024. And number 1 and number 2 are super interesting because I had no idea until I actually started running a bicycle shop. So here we go. Number six, I had no idea the demand level for e-bikes and e-scooters. I mean, the demand is super, super high, especially for price points below $2,000 like the Velo Wave, which we're selling at $14.99 and $16.99. Or the Levy and GoTrack scooters that all the kids love to ride. That demand was so huge because I wasn't selling regular bicycles. I had to switch to this e-bike sales, and that's everything that kind of saved my business is e-bike sales in the budget region. And we could say the economy's bad because nobody's buying bicycles, but there's a lot of people buying e-bikes. So number 6, I had no idea when I opened a bicycle shop that I had to pivot and change to a mobility shop. We do bikes, e-bikes, and e-scooters. Number 5, Tubless Setup. Now, I had no idea that most people don't maintain their tubeless setup on their bicycles. And when I started getting tubeless in, I was surprised at the dusty, dried up spiderweb mess that was inside these tubes. And so in the bike shop, when I get a tubeless setup that comes in and people want to refresh, literally everything's completely dried out. And I actually had to change my price structure to do tubeless setup, because when you neglect it, you get all this dried up gunk in the rim, inside the rim at that lip where the tire is actually supposed to seat. And that takes a good solid half hour or more to clean all of that out to reuse the tire. So the price of neglecting your tubeless setup is almost the same price as just replacing and putting on a new tire. Number 4, the amount of neglect on what I call consumables for a bicycle. So I see a ton of bicycles that come in with brake pads down to the metal or near metal. Not only that, I see situations where we have hydraulic disc brakes and the hydraulic systems need to be flushed. Super dirty, super squishy. And that goes for everything from your brakes to tires. We got tires so old that they're cracking on the edges and almost ready to explode. Or chains not properly oiled or lubricated and dry as a bone. We see them on the bike. And I say that was a surprise to me because I was one of those anal people who used to take care of my bicycle on my own pretty methodically. It might have been my military service. I'm just used to keeping things clean, but it was a surprise to me. Okay, number 3 is people assembling their own bikes poorly. This is something I took for granted, and I don't know why. I thought everybody was similar to me. Like, I had a car once that the clutch went out, so I just got a book and dropped the transmission and replaced the clutch, and it was like, yep, do this, do that. Same thing. Most bicycles my whole life, I've just taken them apart, put them back together. You know, all kinds of things. Bought a house and completely rebuilt it. Said, yeah, we'll do the electrical, the plumbing, put the floor in, do the drywall, paint the walls, piece of cake, easy peasy. But what I've learned owning a bike shop is that I actually had a gift, a mechanical gift or a handyman's gift. And not very many people have that. So in the beginning, when people would bring me their bikes that they try to assemble that they bought online, I was like, wow, this person really is not doing a good job assembling their bike. But then I come to find out that that's pretty normal for most people. Assembling a bike, even though it's easy for me or maybe easy for some of you viewers that are watching this right now, does not come easy to everybody. And we get forks backwards, pedals on the wrong way, chains upside down with the flat top chains, brakes wired the wrong direction. Just really some interesting things that come into the bike shop. But that's great because that's why I'm here. I am here to help you get your bike set up the right way. Now, these next 2 is what I was really, really surprised about. I mean, really surprised about. And maybe I shouldn't have been, but this is what surprised me. And you can tell me, write a comment and say, yeah, I kind of knew that or didn't know that. But yeah, let's get to number 2 and then number 1. Number 2, box store and online store bicycles. Now, you would say, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But no, it's actually way worse than what I thought. So before, let's say before, I thought, okay, box store bikes or online store bikes, they're heavy, they're clunky, you know, but you still have this expectation where you could ride them for a couple of years and they're perfectly fine. They're just not lightweight, you know, made for performance and things like that, but it's way, way worse. I get so many box store bikes or online bikes that are bought on the real cheaper end. And all of these companies have done is basically kept the price the same from 20 years ago, of the same price they were 20 years ago, just lowered the componentry 10 times lower. I mean, and I feel bad because these bikes are breaking at like 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks on people, and I'm telling them to take them back to the store where they got them from, because I can't fix them for less than actually what they paid for the bicycle. You know, if the bottom bracket bearings go out and the wheel bearings go out and the hub where the gears are sitting on is crooked, so it's not shifting right, and the shifters are breaking, like the cost for me to fix that is more than what they actually paid for the bicycle, which really sucks because it provides this really horrible customer experience inside my store. So instead of having the blame being on the people who manufactured the bike, it turns into a conversation about how bike shops are just ripping people off. And I really just kind of hate that experience. And I really wish these box store companies would sell higher quality stuff, because it's affecting me as a bike shop. So yeah, number 2, I was surprised. I knew those big box store bike brands were bad, but I didn't know how bad they were, and they were really bad. So our number 1 thing I was surprised with, and this is giving a hint right here what surprised me. Again, going back to like how I always like took care of my bike. I was very anal about chain maintenance and checking the chain length, which, let me grab that real quick. So chain maintenance, really this tool here, I'm going to show everybody, this is a lifesaver right here. It's just a chain checker right here. It's got a 0.5 and a 0.75 to measure the amount of chain stretch that you actually have on your bicycle. And this is so important, because by neglecting your chain, by not cleaning it or oiling it or not measuring it and checking it, that dirt and grime in there is going to, you know, eat away at the metal and actually stretch the chain out. And as this chain stretches out, it eats grooves into your chain ring in the back, your cassette, and it runs grooves into your front chain ring. And replacing all these pieces gets very, very expensive depending on the type of bike you have. If you have an upper end expensive bicycle running Dura Ace front and back, or SRAM XX1 or something, this turns into a $550 job instead of a $45 chain replacement. I have ridden my bicycles like 15,000 miles and never ran through the group set. I've just changed my chain, and I've always like pretty much checked my chain length, and as soon as I hit the 0.5, I changed it out. And so never had that issue. But I was really surprised at how many of you out there are not really cleaning your chain at all and just running through the whole system. And again, it's kind of, I don't like it because it's a bad customer experience when somebody brings it in and says the shifting's a problem at the top end and the low end, and I look at their cassette in the back and I can see everything's kind of dug out, and I'm like, if I put a new chain on, it's just going to be even worse. And now they've got a $550 bill when they thought maybe it was just a $50 chain they needed. So yeah, that's the number 1 experience. Number 1 and number 2 lead to bad customer engagements, I think, because nobody wants those big bills when they bring their bike into the bike shop. Now, did number 1 and number 2 surprise anybody? Leave a comment if it did. Or maybe you have things that you noticed if you worked in a bike shop that were your number 1 and number 2 that were quite different than what mine were. Or maybe you have friends and you saw something with other friends' bicycles that you couldn't believe. You can put it down in the comments. I'd be really interesting to hear what other people think. But these are just my observations after going through maybe 600 bicycles now. It's been going through a lot of bike repairs. And these are the things that surprised me. in opening a bike shop in 2024. I have no idea what 2025 will bring me, but yeah, it's been an interesting ride. But everybody, absolutely, you need to have a chain checker tool. I would really highly recommend it. And with that said, I'm hoping everybody's enjoying their November. We've had some great weather out here in Pennsylvania. It doesn't feel like fall, hardly feels like fall at all at times. It's really warm conditions. I think it was 81 degrees for Halloween last night. And yeah, how's your weather? Keep riding as long as you can keep riding. And until I make my next video of something interesting I thought about, we'll talk to you again.